guys, my name is Gerard Thelamak. I am 25 years old. I go by the artist name The Pixelist. I am a digital illustrator. I do digital and traditional artwork, and I'm co-founder of 529 Arts Avenue, as well as the upcoming new Vision Art and Illustration, otherwise known as VArt. So my art style varies from traditional old school anime, which is like 90s style animation with a very like high expression style on my hairs and eye style. I also dabble in what I call semi-hyper-realism, where the images look close to real, as close as I can get it, while still keeping some details simple, where I mix in a lot of cinematic, because I like to do, let's say, architecture. So I've been drawing for about 5-7 years professionally, 19 years like unprofessionally. The journey has been an interesting one. I'm not gonna name drop, but it all started with the original influence. I've always been quite a storyteller, but never had the skills to make it visual. After obtaining like a little bit of those skills, it turned into a passion that grew dramatically, where I basically filled a whole lot of my books, like, you know, those old scholastic books, filled with comics non-stop, with characters that all looked very similar, because I didn't really know how to draw anything other than one thing, but it was still enough to like ignite a whole lot of inspiration. From then it turned into a whole bigger scene where I started getting into let's say like portrait illustrations and whatnot. It's been just a variety of comics up until the recent 5 years have it changed into more portraits and standalones. How I got into digital art, that's actually an interesting question. I got into it through finding a way to be cost efficient. I wanted to stay true to my traditional standards, but I felt like the digital art scene was really growing, that there was so much infinite potential with the idea of an infinite canvas. It's like forever changing, and you can forever change and edit and go back on your mistakes, and it gives you more of that freedom. I know it takes away the fear of messing up because you can fix everything, but something about the idea of a canvas that goes as wide as you getting really into the detail. And digital art felt like the right way to go in terms of like getting out all those little nicks and knacks in there. And the amazing thing about digital art is it really is like the next generation. I felt like when I first started with digital art that there was a stigma that maybe I wasn't being like true to myself as an artist, or there wasn't enough like standing behind it in terms of like, you know, you're doing something and it's not considered hard enough work. But no, digital work is really basically the same. It's just a different canvas. Same thing, but it's stepping forward, and I believe in stepping forward. I've always been a forward-thinking type of person, and I thought I'm going to relay that to my art, but stay true to my original creative background. So I got into digital art because I was always interested in the future. Maybe forward-thinking, but my style stays the same. I have to be able to feel like I'm drawing on something that is familiar to me. So it was a long journey to find that right, perfect connection, but once I did, I just fell in love with digital art, and it's been my future ever since. So how I feel about digital art versus traditional art, that's a tough question. I feel when it comes to the both of them, it really depends on the type of artist you are, because I feel like traditional, I mean, since I started off that way, and to be honest, I've only done digital art for about, let's say, maybe 5 years. So my more professional work, majority of it was digital. Before that, for the whole remainder of the years that I've been an artist, it's been traditional. I feel like they both have their strengths. I mean, traditional art, you know, you learn the fundamentals and you get out all of those like skills that will make your digital eye a lot better. Digital art, I mean, you know, it's the idea of the infinite canvas. Yes, digital art, there are tricks you can use. There are cheats. What I cheat is, you know, your references can be your image. You can, if you know how to play it right, you can really create something of your own with as little less work as possible. But that's the age we're going in. You do less to get more done. And, you know, when you start realizing the truth, traditional artists have been doing that since the beginning of time to begin with. I really think what digital versus traditional, to each of their own. I mean, I use them both. I don't always do digital work. I sometimes go back to traditional, and even when I draw digitally, I can't help but look for a surface on any tablet that feels grainy like paper. So digital versus traditional, I want to say, I think ultimately, to be honest, the winner will be digital because everything we do moving forward is eventually going to be forward. We're going to eventually remove paper altogether, and it's going to be a digital world. So eventually, digital like VR art, all those new amazing things are going to be the future, and traditional art will be the new renaissance, the new, well, you know, of its time. It'll be in its time. So I'm going to say versus, I'm not going to say draw. I think digital is going to be the future. I stand by it, but I'll never forget the skills I've learned from my traditional upbringings. Digital art changed me. Oh, it really gave me a new excitement for art. Interested in digital art only because, you know, Instagram was starting to grow at that time, and a lot of digital artists were starting to be on the rise, and DeviantArt was becoming a big thing, and that was like digital art city. I saved up a lot, and I made a promise to myself. Once I would get the iPad, I would get into digital art and give it a shot. Once I tried it, I'm not gonna lie, it was difficult. It was weird. The lines were squiggly. It didn't feel right. I felt like, oh man, I wasted my money. This is not going to work. This is terrible. I don't got time for this. After a while, I started learning the tricks, and then it got really interesting. Now, I am going to say all the way, right off the jump, I have no formal skills in Photoshop. Everything I learned, I taught myself because I do not believe in paying so much money already to buy Photoshop, and then more money to go to school for Photoshop. Digital art gave me a new confidence that I can pick up anything I felt like drawing because I can learn how to analyze it better digitally. You know, the best part about doing digital art is you can work backwards. You just take the reference image and study it, like go over each detail in a way you really couldn't do it traditionally, and kind of understand the aspect. They even have settings now where you can learn how to do perspective with guidelines right there, where you just learn how to do perspective without actually learning it. To me, progressed as an artist overall, because everything I learned digitally, I challenge myself to make sure I can duplicate it traditionally. Every single one of my pieces, I make sure I learn the traditional way before I actually dabble in the digital way. So it's definitely made me more confident. That's how it's shaped me. I feel like I definitely have the infinite potential it sells to me. So you can find my collection on 529artsavenue.com on our shop page. You can also find more of my collection upcoming in our next shows coming up. We definitely have a couple of amazing things we're working on. You can also find my art as well as Studio Duelist artwork on our Etsy. You can find us at 529.com and also 529 at Etsy. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoy the art.
Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.